Covid-19 Registry. So Bruce, we invite you to share your screen and to share your experiences with us.
Great. Can you see that? I can't tell how well that's projecting. Looks good?
It looks very good.
Okay, great. Thank you. So thanks for giving me a few minutes to present and on behalf of the steering committee of the Covid-19 Registry, present a little bit about the status of this project and the intent of it. And I know Amber Salter's on this call too. Amber's really the driver of this, so I'd invite Amber to make any comments as well as we move through this. So this effort was launched a couple weeks ago and went live last week, and the intent of it was for it to be a data collection, I'd say a unified data collection effort for North America, as best as we can have a unified effort. We focused on, and I think this was shared in the email for this call, we considered some high impact questions and settled on the questions on the slide, which I think are the same questions a lot of people have been focused on answering, at least in the short term, and what seemed like potentially pragmatic questions that we could potentially answer as well. So we spent a little time and settled on those questions. We established some principles, and I would say, that the effort should be able to be completed by any healthcare provider, not necessarily a neurologist or any other specialist. That while we tried as best we could to avoid a chart review, that I don't think we completely eliminated the need to go back and look at the chart, but we tried to minimize that as much as possible. That the form should be, the case report form should be detailed enough to be able to help answer those questions, but not overly burdensome. We really were hoping that we'd have one unified effort for North America, and that we are striving for harmonization with other efforts. So our case report form is based on the Italian case report form, and it harmonizes quite well with the MS Data Alliance case report form as well. And that was a principle, I'd say, that guided this as well. And we also wanted to minimize the need for an ethics review. So the effort up to now has been evaluated by the Washington University IRB as non-human subjects research. And that statement and certificate, I believe, is on the website. And I think the steering committee for this effort is meeting again this week to consider how we can help overcome ethics issues that some of prospective participants are sharing with us. So we're going to work on that. With that being said, it's up and running. There's a URL that we can certainly share with this group. And I got an email from Amber today that, and I think we've been live for less than a week. We have worked on promoting this, but we still have a lot of levers, I think, still to pull to promote this more broadly, including this group. And already, as of today, Amber shared with me, we have 23 cases, 22 that are MS and 1 that's a MOG disease. And just to be clear that this data collection effort's open to MS and related diseases, including MOG and anti-MOG and other antibody-mediated demyelinating diseases. So I'd stop there. I know we have a lot of other presentations to go through, and happy to answer any questions people might have.
Thanks for this incredible effort and for the very concise summary. I would propose we move on to the next speaker and then collect all the questions at the end, so we can have a very comprehensive overview of all the registries and then move to the discussion. So as a next speaker, I would like to invite Jeff Cohen, the current ATRMS president, to speak about the experience at the Cleveland Clinic. Jeff, we look forward to your insights.
Oh, can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we cannot see your screen. Yes, you're starting to, perfect.
Okay, is it full screen or is it still just a slide?
So now we see your full desktop. Yeah, and so.
Okay, all right, good.
Perfect.
So we are at the Cleveland Clinic, we're also participating in some of the larger registries. I think our plan is to submit our data to the COVIMS North American registry that you just heard about. But we also are doing our own registry to look at certain issues in somewhat more detail. We certainly won't have the numbers of some of the national registries, but we do follow 8,000 to 10,000 patients at our center, so we feel we can get some interesting data from that. So what's a little bit unique about our registry is that we're pulling information from a number of different sources. One is our own clinic registry, which is part of the MS PATHS consortium, in which we collect technology-enabled data at every patient encounter in patients with multiple sclerosis. That includes MS disease information, patient-reported outcomes, neuroperformance testing, and quantitative MRI. The other somewhat unique aspect of our effort, I think, is that we're actively reaching out to patients. We just went live today with sending out a blast MyChart message. MyChart is a messaging function as part of our electronic medical record to all of the patients that are followed at the Cleveland Clinic with multiple sclerosis. And through that mechanism, we will be administering monthly questionnaires about COVID-related disease prevention measures, and then any symptoms that suggest illness. And then after illness, there'll be follow-up questionnaires. Our registry is linked to a Cleveland Clinic-wide registry, which includes all patients tested in our system for SARS-CoV-2. We're a reference lab for Northeast Ohio and the Midwest, so that will include quite a few patients. That registry includes very detailed risk factor information, very detailed information about hospital course, and some outcomes measures. And then we also, because it's an internal registry, will have the capability of doing chart review if needed. And then finally, our registry has been aligned, first of all, with the Italian registry, the MS Data Alliance, the MS Society Consortium registry. So we, the items that we capture that are in common with those should align. But we're also aligned with several registries from other immune specialties, pulmonary for sarcoid, rheumatology for connective tissue diseases, and inflammatory bowel disease through GI. So that's our effort right now. We have, we went live yesterday. We now have identified 120 MS patients that have been tested, and about, I think we're up to about 12 that have tested positive. So that's our, so we don't really have much data on experience as of yet, but that's our sort of the magnitude of our effort. So I will stop there, and we'll answer questions at the end, I guess.
Thank you very much for this insight. Yes, we'll move on to the next speaker, and then to the other participants, please feel also free to use the chat option so we can already start gathering your questions. The next speaker will be Tintore from Spain. We look forward to your presentation. Would you like me to share the slides, or you want to share your own slides? You're still muted. Perfect, okay.
So, hello everybody. First of all, I don't have the data for all Spain for the moment. We only have the data from CEMCAT, but I have been informed that probably in the forthcoming weeks we will also have data from different parts of Spain. Regarding our center, we have also developed during the past weeks a questionnaire that is fulfilled by neurologists, and that is roughly based on the Italian case report. And we have also developed questionnaires for patients that we are going to send to the database that we have on our files, that is about 3,000 patients. And our intention is to send this questionnaire bi-weekly at the beginning, and then perhaps less frequently, to also try to catch up the situation from the patients themselves. And we will also have the opportunity to link this data to our ETHEMCAT data cohort, that is also a deeply phenotype MS cohort. For the moment, we have collected 43 MS patients with COVID symptoms. As you can see in the slide, 30% only have a PCR positive, but this is a reflection of the situation in our country, where only patients that are in the hospital have the opportunity to have the test performed. These 43 patients, the mean age was 45 years. You see that we have the typical representation of females, 2/3, and also 25% are progressive forms of the disease, and 25% do report some comorbidities. As for treatment, we have 70% of these 43 patients that were on treatment, and interestingly, 76% are patients that are on second-line treatment. And this is probably an overrepresentation, because probably this is not reflecting the overall situation of patients treated in our place. We have 2 patients that have died. The 2 of them were without treatment. And as you can see, one was a female, 68 years old, with a long disease duration, 30 years, secondary progressive, an EDSS of 4.5, with several comorbidities, and with the very typical biomarkers that are seen in severe patients. And the other is a male with a primary progressive MS, an EDSS of 8.5. And I'll thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ma, for sharing this information from quite a large number of MS patients. We'll move to the French registry, and we have Celine Louapre on the call to represent their experience. Celine?
Yes, hello, thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Are you going to show the slides yourself? I sent you earlier.
Yeah, if you want me, or would you like to share them yourself?
I can do both. I just need to find out.
If you do it, you can advance them the way you want, but I'm also happy to share. Just let me know.
Okay, I just need to find where my file is. It's there, okay. Is it correct?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So we have launched a national register for patients with MS and NMOSD disorders, using the networks that we have in France, the Société francophone de la sclérose en plaques, the Observatoire français de la sclérose en plaques, which is a national MS register, and the clinical research network, more dedicated to clinical trials. So together with the investigator of Strasbourg, Nicolas Collongue and Jérôme de Sèze, and Paris, but also all the centers in France involved in the care of multiple sclerosis patients, we collected using a REDCap a red cap CRF, like I saw previously. We collected the patients with confirmed COVID infection and highly suspected COVID infection. So this is a result of the data. On April 5, we had 93 MS patients and 3 NMO patients. And as today, I just looked before the meeting, we have 132 patients also. So the mean age for MS is 41 years old, with a sex ratio which is expected for MS. Disease duration is 11 years for MS patients, with most of the patients being relapsing remitting course, and the median EDSS was 2. So the PCR for COVID-19 was performed in 43% of the patients for the MS group, because most of the patients who don't need hospitalization are not tested in France. And among them, 9 patients had ground glass opacities on thoracic CT scans. So this is a distribution of the cases in France, where you can see most cases reported so far are in Alsace and in Parisian region, but also other cases are distributed over the territory. And the second slide gives you some details about the symptom frequency, which are quite usual for the disease: most asthenia, fever, cough, anosmia, with almost half of the patients. And then we plotted the severity of the disease according to a scale that is used in most COVID trials. So we have the patients not hospitalized with no limitations on activities, patient hospitalized not requiring oxygen or requiring oxygen. And on Sunday, we did not have patients' death reported, but since last extraction, we have now 2 patients reported who died from COVID-19. So as you can see, the distribution of the treatment is pretty, there's no specific pattern among the patients with the disease COVID-19 severities. We have performed statistical analysis to determine which are the factors associated with hospitalization, and we could find that the age and EDSS and comorbidities were associated with the risk of hospitalization, but so far not the DMT. But this needs to be confirmed as the register is still ongoing, and maybe I will be able to show you and to share some data later. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Celine, also for this very nice data on treatment stratification. We'll move to the next European center, that will be Sweden, and we have Jan Hillert share the data from the registry. Jan?
Yes, good evening. Could you show my slides, please?
Yes, I'm happy to do so.
Right.
So you will just let me know when I should advance the slide.
Yes. So I will be very brief. So we have a national MS registry, which has an 85% coverage of the prevalent population, meaning that we have some 18,000 patients we're following, and we already have quite some detailed information on these patients. So what we have done is that we have introduced a COVID module of extra questions aligned with the MS Data Alliance CRF. Next slide, please. These are the data fields that we need to enter, which were not already in the registry. But this means that we can relate these data to ongoing treatment, to disability, to MS course, and all other kinds of usual MS variables, of course. We launched this now 5 days ago, and we have communicated the existence of this report mechanism. And today we have no more than 7 patients. Out of those 7 patients, 3 are hospitalized. 2 of them are in intensive care units, and both of them are on ventilation. So it seems that we are collecting severe cases with this mechanism. I think that's probably all I should say so far. But we are, of course, ready to share this information with the MS Data Alliance or MSIF community in order to monitor the development, to look for some danger signals in terms of treatments or lymphocyte counts, etc. Things that we could hopefully have some useful information from already during the course of this epidemic, and not just in retrospect. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. We'll now move to the registry from Egypt, and we have Zakaria share their experience.
Hello, everybody, and greetings. I've just joined today, and actually we're starting yet to collect the information. You know, in Egypt, we don't have these too many patients, although we have about 6,000 patients in the National Egyptian Registry now, but the number of people who have been proved to have COVID-19 in Egypt are less than 1,400, and those who have died are less than 100. So actually, the total number of patients until now is quite low. And so we still don't have information about the MS patients, but we're starting to collect on a national scale if there are any patients of these who have been proven to have COVID-19 positive. So we are still in a much earlier stage, I think, and I don't know if we're going to develop to the latest stages as the rest of the world. So we hope things don't go much worse in Egypt, but I will keep you informed. Unfortunately, I still don't have any of this information because of the number of patients. And I will keep you informed. Maybe next time we join, we have collected some of these patients. So sorry for not having the data at this time, but as I told you, all the Egyptian patients, they are less than 1,400 at the current time, and we haven't seen yet any of the MS cases. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience, and we'll move to the UK, and we have Richard Nicholas on the call this week. Richard?
Thank you. Thanks. This is so we've been collecting data. Well, so the UK MS Register is really a patient reported outcome resource where people with MS sign up and enter data on a 6-monthly basis. And we started about 3 weeks ago, really. And what we were trying to look for actually was how common is it amongst everyone with MS. So we developed 2 approaches. One is a clinical reporting, which is very similar to what everyone said. So far, I think we've got about, that really only launched last week. We've got about 9 people on that. So we've got 1 person in intensive care that I know of about it. But also we answered, did some questionnaires for people with MS and asked people if they wish to sign up. And we've had quite a push through Twitter and lots of resources through Gavin Giovannoni's site, and lots of opportunities for people to sign up. And really, we've been sending questionnaires. Essentially, the aim is to send questionnaires out every 2 weeks initially to try and get prospective information on those who develop symptoms over the time. So we've got some baseline data at the moment, which we've got about 2,000 people who signed up at the moment. So We've got about 26 confirmed. Again, as everyone has said, we don't get testing done unless you're admitted to hospital, you get testing done. And we've got about 113 self-suspected cases. And we've actually then chasing up the people who have confirmed diagnosis. We are we have permission to chase them up, and we've got some responses from them, and we're going to contact them to try and confirm exactly how the diagnosis was confirmed. I think there's a number of tests out there that people are using with different specificities about it. Just a quick summary, that's what we've got so far of all of this. So it's really a whole population of people who, most people don't have any symptoms, obviously, and don't have anything. And the aim is to see what happens to these people as time goes on. And the other aim was actually to ask a few psychological questions, because like Jan was saying, we have a lot of patients who've already signed up to the register, so you could sign up straight away and join them for this study. But we had about certainly 600 people who got data predating this pandemic. So we're trying to relate some of the mood issues and the anxiety issues that are occurring for people with MS. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and also thank you for bringing up this new point in recording different aspects of disease and how people are affected. And we'll now move on to Kerstin Hellwig from Germany, and she'll also talk about the European registry. Kerstin?
Yes, hi. I cannot share my screen. Somebody else?
Richard, you would have to stop sharing your screen.
Yes, I see. I think this is Utah, right?
Yeah, so maybe is Richard muted? Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. So I'm representing for the KKN-MS study group in Germany. The LEOS registry, it's not an MS registry, it's a general registry to investigate risk factors in COVID-19 infections, and it makes it totally different, and there's only a very minimal data set, but it might have other advantages over the time to compare the course of active COVID infections with other patients, and if we have enough cases, perhaps with a propensity score matching age, comorbidities, and so on. And you see here, it's an international registry, and it's recruiting fast. So every day during the last days, there were 50 to 60 new COVID-19 patients included, but not with MS. It's anonymous. Therefore, it's easy to include children, also deaths, and MS. And this is what we did with the KKN-MS study group, that we included multiple sclerosis as a comorbidity with their own minimal data set, with EDSS stratified in larger steps, fully ambulatory, then 4 to 6, and so on. Myasthenia is also in as a comorbidity, and also a questionnaire for immunosuppressive drugs. And you see the neuroimmunological diseases are only a small part of the whole spectrum of comorbidities, the smallest part so far. And this was also last week. There are 5 patients included. They were fully ambulatory, but what changed, and this I see also the other talks showed the dynamic of the disease. Last week, there was only 1 in the critical phase, but of the 5 now, 2 others went to the critical phase, meaning being on a ventilator. But it's also mainly done in hospitals, this LEOS registry. So there will be a much larger amount of patients more severely affected. And here, they just looked up the treatments. For me, these are already recovered. They had alemtuzumab and natalizumab. And here, so again, no pattern of immunomodulatory treatment as shown by the others. And I think it's a good opportunity, especially for countries or hospitals not academic, to include patients, and therefore here are again some information how to register. That's it.
Thanks a lot, Kerstin. We'll now move on to Italy, and I'd like to ask Maria Trojano to report about the Italian experience this week.
Thank you. I am here. Just oh my God.
So, Kerstin, you should stop.
Yes. If you want, you could.
Is it?
You have my slides. I see the Kerstin paper. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Done? Okay.
Oh my God. It's yours. I've sent my slides. If you want, you could upload them.
Mm-hmm. If you, yeah, I can do that. Wait a second. I will do that right away. All right. So let me share the screen.
Okay.
And you will let me know when I should advance to the next slide.
Okay.
I will go in the presentation mode. Here we go.
Can you enlarge the, okay. So I don't have big news compared to the previous call from last week, but for those who were not present in the previous call, I would like to briefly update you on the program that was set up by the Italian Neurological Society and Italian Multiple Sclerosis Society. The program includes a short-term objective that will be achieved by the COVID-19 project linked to the Italian Registry that all of you know very well. As you know, a dedicated international CRF has been developed which aims to collect data on COV-2 infection in people with multiple sclerosis. Maria Pia Sormani is on the call, and she will update you on the international CRF that is now available on a dedicated platform from a couple of days. And in the future, in the next futures, this platform will be connected to the Italian MS registries. As I know, as for April 7, about 200 patients have been collected. Maria Pia, I hope to update you on this population, but during the last call, she presented us the preliminary results. But the next slide, please. Meantime, the SARS-CoV-2 infection is currently already monitored within the Italian MS registries because it's possible to include the occurrence of SARS-CoV-2 cases by MEDRA code into the adverse events section of the web platform. And a COVID-19 module is developing where we hope to receive information from the platform of the COVID-19 project into the Italian MS registries for in-depth epidemiological studies. The next slide. Another important initiative, Jan Hillert is on the call. We are preparing a shared module that will be adopted by the 5 registries of the big MS network for an expanded analysis and a comparison between the 5 countries. This module is this project will be led by French and Italian teams. This is a variables mapping we are preparing to try to harmonize the data collection in all the 5 registries, so to speed up the data merging procedures when we will be able to perform a multi-registry analysis under the umbrella of the big MS network. These are the initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Maria Pia, Sormani, would you like to comment on that or extend?
Yeah, if I'm on mute, I can just update the numbers, because as for today, we have 380 patients in the database. We are collecting about 50 patients per day, so the number is increasing every day. And that's the final update. And we submitted the paper, so I cannot disclose the numbers, I mean the details, because they are under embargo. And I hope next week we have the paper accepted, so I mean we can show you the detailed analysis of that. I mean, yeah, the good news is that we didn't have any additional death this week. So the deaths were 5 last week and are still 5. And that's good news.
Yeah.
Maria Pia, this is Bruce. Just a quick follow-up question to that. Are those 380, what proportion of them are PCR confirmed versus suspected?
Most of them are just suspected. Okay. 60 patients are confirmed and 320 are just suspected cases.
Thank you. Just curious.
Thank you. We'll move on to Liesbet Peeters. Is she on the call? Liesbet?
Hi, I'm here. Hello.
Hi.
I will share my screen now. 1 second.
Thank you.
Right, I hope it works. Think so. Is it okay? Can people see the screen? Anne-Katrin?
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Good, great. Yeah, first of all, thank you for organizing this. I think it's a wonderful initiative to bring everybody together on a weekly basis. So I gave a little bit more insights into the more overall overview of the COVID-19 in people with MS Global Data Sharing Initiative last week. So a short recap. So the COVID-19 and in people with MS Global Data Sharing Initiative is a joint initiative between the MS International Federation and the MS Data Alliance Initiative, acting under the umbrella of the European Charcot Foundation, where we actually aim to facilitate and empower all the different initiatives. So it's great to see the preliminary results of the initiatives actually coming in week by week, and that these initiatives are growing. And with the Global Data Sharing Initiative, we actually would like to reinforce all of that by formulating recommendations for people with MS, for healthcare professionals and data custodians and MS societies about how they can support this urgent need for data to achieve insights even during the pandemic. So one key aspect has been to recommend a list of variables to be the COVID-19 core data set, which is a list of variables that is aiming to be the common denominator across the initiatives. And then the idea is that as many different people with MS as well as healthcare professionals are engaged and aware that data collection is necessary and that they should go to the registries and actually support those registries. So this is why for example, for people with MS, we we recommend or we encourage people that if they are already involved in an MS data initiative that is planning to implement a COVID-19 core data set, that they share the data in that MS data initiative. And if they are not involved in an MS data initiative, that they join one of the initiatives that are actually allowing additional people to be there. So we differentiate between initiatives that are patient-driven or clinician-driven, meaning that either the person with MS reports or the clinician reports, and we definitely recommend and encourage that people go for a more sustainable approach by going via the registries. For if people for any reason do not want to go to a registry, we provide the opportunity for the fast data entry platform, but this is definitely not encouraged. So we really hope that people with MS join one of the initiatives that are currently already doing the COVID-19 core data set. So some of the examples that we are currently aware of are listed here. If you are aware of an initiative that should be on the list, please reach out to us. So we have a project manager, Lotte Gijs, which you can always contact to actually extend the list of initiatives on the website. Similarly, for healthcare professional, we encourage clinicians and healthcare professionals to register in the initiatives that they are already involved in, and that if they are not involved in a data initiative, that they team up with one of the existing and arising initiatives. So this is a list of initiatives that we are currently aware of, where clinicians can report and the areas or regions in the world where they can actually be included into the initiatives, as well as links to these initiatives. If you are aware of an initiative that is not in the list, please contact us so that we can further fine-tune and extend this list of initiatives. And here also we provide the opportunity for a fast data entry, but it's definitely not the intention that this is used to the maximal extent. Because the registries will actually be the ones delivering the long-term and the more deep insights we need for true lessons learned. So these are just some preliminary descriptive results. And actually, I use this meme because the only thing that the data currently says is that we need more data. And this is just the fast data entry track, which is currently the one that we are not encouraging. So we currently have 446 people with MS who have registered. Most of them are patient reported, and we have 4 that are clinician reported. We have 51 of them are either suspected or confirmed, and 7 are actually confirmed to the lab test. So we have records from 36 different countries. Most of them are from Spain, and the others are where there are no mature registries available. And I think that the distributions of the types of MS and the current and last treatment are more or less what we would expect from the population. But actually the main signal here we would like to put forward is that we would like to encourage everyone to collect data using one of the initiatives that were presented before, or some other that are in the list, and that we encourage additional data initiatives to implement the core 19 core data set. So normally all the information should be either on the website of MSIF or the MS Data Alliance. We started with working with the Swedish registry to start pioneering the imports of the registries. And we have a demo on actually how that goes in about 10 minutes. So people who still would like to join this info session or demo on how the procedure and the pipeline actually works are very welcome. So you can go to the website and contact somebody, and somebody will send you the Zoom link. So everybody's super welcome. So this was it for me. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you for this very concise summary. We'll have one more presenter, that is Ellen Mowry. She's going to talk about her patient-based registry. Ellen?
Liesbet, stop sharing your screen, please, for the next speaker. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everybody. And it's really great to see your faces and names. And I certainly hope everybody is doing well. So we are launching this week our COVID-RIMS study at Hopkins, which is COVID-19 risk with immune modulating medication study. This is meant to be a patient-centered study. It's centered in REDCap, and we are actually expanding to adults with MS and a variety of neuroimmunologic as well as other inflammatory conditions, folks who might need to take immune suppressive therapies. The design is essentially that we're surveying patients weekly for the first 3 months and then tentatively switching to a monthly survey, talking about demographics, use of various medications, comorbidities, and their own exposures, both through their socialization and their employment and other factors. At Hopkins, we have a large precision medicine analytics platform that pulls in all the clinical data, including the MSPT, which is the iPad-based MSFC that we use in MS Paths. We also have an active biorepository where we'll have samples before and then after the pandemic. So we should be able to look for not just clinical or lab testing confirmed COVID-19 during the symptomatic phase, but also to look for asymptomatic disease. And then right now we are not planning to survey physicians as we're just about to hit our sort of trend upward in terms of hospitalized patients, but we plan to do that in a few weeks. And I think most importantly, like Liesbet, we are very open to sharing data. We can share our protocol as well as our REDCap-based case report form. This is an initiative that's been very collaborative, but Kate Fitzgerald and I have taken the lead, and our email addresses are there. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ellen. I would propose that we'll move to the discussion part and have the floor open for questions. I might start with a few questions that I have gathered from the chat. The first one being is a question, is there any experience on patients that are COVID-19 positive and have a relapse and how to treat them? Anybody wants to share their experience on that? Please be sure to unmute yourself if you would like to comment on the question.
So maybe we can ask our Italian or French colleagues who have the largest numbers of patients if they've had to deal with treating relapses in their COVID positive patients.
Yes. Hello. So we had a patient who were confirmed. Actually, it was she went to the hospital due to a fall, and because she had a CRP just a bit elevated, she got the testing and she was positive, but she was on relapse, and so we decided not to get steroid at the acute phase, but just a slightly delayed. But she was asymptomatic on the pulmonary side. So what we do here in Paris is that if there is a relapse, obviously without COVID symptoms, we still would like to perform an MRI if we have doubt between a mild relapse or maybe acute symptoms that are not related to a relapse. And then if everything is clear, then we can perform the steroid treatment. But if the patient has symptoms, we have an infection, actually, even if it would be another infection, we don't administer the steroid. I don't know if you have the same strategy as well.
So I from Spain, Celia from Spain, I can say my experience. So we have now 19 patients with COVID, and they were without relapses. But the thing is that can you hear me? Yes. The thing is that the patients are not coming because of the relapse. So that the last 4 weeks, there were no patients with relapses because nobody wanted to come to the hospital, so that they were waiting at home. And it's very strange because now this week, that the situation is much better in Madrid, that we have more places in the hospital, that they tell in the television now the hospital they have place and the situation will be better. So they appear all the relapses. So that in these 3 days, I have more people, they call me to say that they have a relapse, and a colleague of mine was seeing these patients not in the hospital, so in another building far away from the hospital. And that is very interesting because they were not coming. So I don't think so that they were without relapses, because they were not coming, because they were afraid that when they are coming to see the physician, the neurologist, they can have the COVID. So that they were waiting, and now in this week is the week that after 4 weeks now we are seeing now the relapses, because the patients, they were waiting. So for example, on Monday they called me a woman that said to me she cannot move the leg, and now there are 3 weeks, and she was waiting 3 weeks to call us to come to see us, because they are very, very afraid, so that they prefer to stay at home with the relapses than to call and to come to the hospital or to come to the outpatient ambulatory. And I think that is the reason why we are not seeing the relapses, is because they are not calling and not coming, because they are very, very afraid.
Thank you for sharing that experience. There was another question regarding to treatment. I think we have seen in multiple registries that there seems to be no specific DMT to be associated with more severe disease caught in regards to COVID. But there was a question whether anybody has an experience with people that have been on stem cell transplantation and have been infected with COVID. Anybody have seen a patient? Okay, it doesn't seem to be. And then maybe the last question that's coming.
So the only thing, sorry,
yeah.
This is Jeff. I was just going to say, so I don't have any specific experience with that. I just would say that the Bebo multi-center randomized trial is currently, enrollment's currently on hold because of this. So.
Thank you for that information. So the last question was for Jan Hillert, is why there is no strict social distancing in Sweden. Jan, you want to comment on that question?
It's an evident question, which is maybe out of the range for the MS community, but I think the authorities believe that they will gain nothing more in terms of behavior by imposing harder regulations. They hope that people are still socially distancing each other in an appropriate way. And so far, we haven't seen any clear evidence that it is not working. It's pretty much the same as in most other countries, but there are some neighboring countries that have more benign outcomes, like Finland and Norway. So maybe it's a mistake. We will know in the end. And I should say that out of the 7 patients, 4 of them are on rituximab, which then of course needs to be put into the context of half of Sweden's treated MS patients are actually on rituximab. So it's actually not a signal. But illustrating the importance of knowing something about the source population of the cases that we collect.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. Are there further questions to the speakers? I see, yes, Mark, please go ahead.
I just have a general question, is that those cases who are tested are the severe cases who are admitted to the hospitals. It seems that in most of the countries, the milder cases or the moderate cases, they are not tested. And so the whole idea of the registry is to see the performance of the MS patients in general during the pandemic of the Covid-19. Now, if we're going to see the course of the severe cases only, then I think this is going to be a bias in relation to all the other majority of the 80% of cases who are milder and maybe have been taking aggressive therapies. So we need to know about these patients who are not tested in general, not confirmed to have COVID-19, and I don't know how we could solve this problem. So it's a general question.
This is Alan. That's why we're planning to do a patient-reported registry and also to follow up with serologies once the pandemic is complete, as I think that will allow us to understand how many people were exposed and developed antibodies, and then to go back and report that versus their clinical and demographic and other features of interest.
Right. So the only other thing I would add, this is Jeff, is so we plan to do the same thing, but is that like a lot of places, the priority has been given to hospitalized patients and patients with severe symptoms. But at our place, the policy was just instituted that a patient with MS who has any symptoms, if they're on a disease-modifying therapy, can also be tested. So that'll help in the meantime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further questions? Comments? If not, yes, go ahead.
The only comment to make, Nikos from the UK MS Register, just to stress that's the approach that we have taken as well here in the UK as presented with Richard. And there is a bit of a danger that if we only stick to the severely hospitalized, or if we wait for the pandemic to finish to find out what has happened, that will not be of particularly benefit to the patients at the moment, that they are scared and they want some information, what is the outcome of their COVID-like symptoms. So it is something that we are thinking about it, and it's worth, it's a very important thing. We cannot just wait for 6 months just to report the outcome.
So maybe I can add, so maybe this is John Hillert, maybe I can add that the aim of the MSIF coordinated analysis is that we will try to filter out some danger signals in order to be able to provide advice already during the course of this pandemic and not to wait until afterwards. But of course, the biases would be the problem to solve. And we will do our best to do that, of course. It might be possible to do that by propensity scoring, propensity matching, depending on the numbers we get, but it will not be an easy task.
Thank you, Jan. I wanted to come to one point that has been raised by Mar, and that is the question whether the therapy with hydroxychloroquine that is being implemented in a lot of places for COVID-19, whether there's some interference with natalizumab, which has been suggested. Mar, would you like to comment on your experience, and then people may want to share their experience? You're muted.
Thank you. This is a question that was raised by one of our patients. She's a doctor, and she looked to the prescription data of hydroxychloroquine, and at least in Spain, it is stated that natalizumab is contraindicated. So we were really surprised because we hadn't noticed, and we asked our pharmacologists to make a revision for us, and they have been looking at their different data, and the only thing that they have found is that hydroxychloroquine has some immunosuppressive effect, and therefore this is why it might be suggested that natalizumab is contraindicated. But for example, if you look to hydroxychloroquine, the generics, this counseling is not referred. And if you look to the natalizumab prescription, also hydroxychloroquine is not there. So probably there is nothing behind, and also we have to take into consideration that for COVID, hydroxychloroquine is only used for a few days, while, for example, in rheumatic diseases is a long-term use. So probably this is not really meaningful, but I wanted only to raise it because I think this might also happen to you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up, Ma, and we might want to come back to this next week because unfortunately we're out of time. So to respect everybody's schedule, I would like to thank all the representatives from the registries for being on the call, for sharing the experience. I think in summary, it really looks like from the data we have now, although that is probably skewed towards hospitalized patients, there doesn't seem to be bias of a certain DMT or towards influencing the course of COVID into one or the other direction. But I think only time will tell. And so we look forward to having you again on next week's call. And we will follow up on these discussions. And if you would like to share your data, please reach out to us and we'll also make notes of some of the points that have been raised this week. So thank you all again and stay safe. Emmanuel, would you like to?
To add that because the session was recorded, if you have colleagues who want to listen to the session, although because they could not join the call today, you can direct them to our website, which is iWiMS.world, so International Women in MS.world, and it takes usually 1 day or so to be posted, so you can share that with people. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Excellent work.
Thank you.